Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another webinar by RSAWEB. This is our how to get the most out of your cloud, 3 ways RSAWEB helps its customers to save. We've got 2 great presenters this morning for you. Sean Rose, our Cloud Product Manager, and Jonathan Marshall, our Engineering Operations Manager. And thank you, everyone, for joining today. We're still waiting for 1 or 2 more people, but I'm going to start by handing over to our first presenter of the day, which is Sean Rose. Sean, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. As Gold said, welcome to our 3rd webinar. I'm Sean. This is Jonathan.
Hi.
So for those of you joining us for the first time, a quick introduction to RSAWEB before we dive into the discussion topics of the day. RSAWEB has been a technology partner to our customers since the early 2000s. Our approach has always been practical, fit for purpose, and with the growth and success of our customer businesses in mind. Our product stack provides the building blocks for you to deploy a reliable and scalable ICT infrastructure and overlay services needed to run high-performance operations and online businesses. So over the years, we've developed our ISV footprint to provide national coverage with various last-mile connectivity options, from fiber to wireless to mobile data and LTE solutions. And we also provide various WAN solutions, most recently with a change to our SD-WAN solution. As a hosting provider, we offer a range of services from simple web hosting and data center co-location services to our own public cloud across 2 national availability zones, as well as partnerships with 2 hyperscalers to provide a more complex hybrid cloud solution. So in closing out this introduction, it's important to share that our approach is holistic and business-minded. And because of this, we've chosen to partner with companies like VMware, Veeam, Cloudflare, and New Relic, to name a few. And these are companies and partners that enrich what we're able to build and deliver to our customers. Our primary goal with every customer engagement is to identify the problem that needs solving, and then to try and solve it. So with this thought, we would like to take you through how to get the most out of your cloud and the 3 ways that we go about helping our customers to do that and save. So we have, over time, developed very much a systems thinking approach to what we do. And the 3 main processes that we follow involves engagement, an engineering process, and an evaluation process. Great. So Scott, if you don't mind, if you can just carry on controlling that slideshow. So the first slide, apologies, everyone, some minor technical difficulties. Scott, if you can skip to the first slide, the next one, actually. Right, so under the topic of engagement, we typically spend a good amount of time with our customers, whether new or existing, to understand their business strategy, the operations within the business, how the business runs, and the industry sector that they operate in, as well as their commercial and technical stresses. This is really important insight that we gather when we initially engage with our customers, because understanding the intricacies of every customer business is really important. And it kind of informs the way forward. So understanding what pain points that we can immediately alleviate with our technology stacks, but more so what we can do with the available technology that the customer has, coupled with our products and services to enable that business. We have some great stories to tell of where we've helped transform the way customers do business, how they get their products to market, and how they manage their technology spend to maximize profitability. And most importantly, we've learned that there is no one-size-fits-all scenario that works. Our experience and a repertoire of scenarios which have worked and also sometimes failed across different organizations and industry sectors are the benchmarks that we use, which we share with our customers when discussing a potential migration to the cloud or even a forward plan within the cloud environment. And so it's through these experiences that we seek out additional products and services to overlay our cloud computing solutions, which is why we've incorporated partnerships with products and companies like Veeam as our preferred backup and DR solution partner, Cloudflare, New Relic for application performance management and monitoring. And so with that, as a brief sort of synopsis of the engagement process, I'm going to hand over to Jonathan, who will share how this approach is viewed from an engineering or a development perspective.
Thanks, Sean. So once RSAWEB starts to engage with you from a technical standpoint, we really want to understand your business and how the particular project or problem impacts your business. It's very important that we understand the particular project, because a system, for example, that is mission critical and a core part of your business will usually have a very different technical and financial requirements compared to a system that exists for a limited period of time. For example, maybe a marketing promotion that you're making. So RSAWEB is able to add a lot of value when we actually understand the client's problems at a very deep level. In the engineering department, we have a wide range of experience across various industries within the team. So we're also able to use that experience and the relationships that we've built over time with vendors, partners, and even other clients to solve your particular problem that you're facing within your business. As an example, we had a client that had infrastructure already with us. They were a startup, they were running lean, but we identified with them that they were lacking in terms of pure system administration. So we actually we went out to our partners and clients, and we actually sourced a system administrator for them. We interviewed a few of them, and we actually put forward the system administrator, made the introduction to the client as a potential person that would add value to their client. And initially, the client was only looking for a part-time resource. They actually since hired that person full-time, and they've had a very long ongoing relationship since then. It's also, as I say, we were able to leverage these relationships that we've built up over time, because we can also go to our partners, and if you have a particular problem that you're facing, whether it's with regards to a firewall or backup or disaster recovery, we can actually consult through our partnerships and get that very specific technical problem solved with people that deal with those issues on a day-to-day basis. So going back to what I said about understanding exactly what your business is and or the problem or specific project that you're having a challenge with, we really want to understand the numbers, the specs, what's actually going on, because all these numbers actually land up and they inform how we tailor a specific solution to you. So for example, how much bandwidth is this particular application using? What are the monthly users? Where are the users? How do the users typically connect to your system? Are they using fiber? Are they using mobile? Do they have very low bandwidth? Perhaps it's a geographically far place, so they don't have a lot of access to core infrastructure. And there may be other particular business problems in your industry. So for example, tax filing season, you may have a large burst of resources, but you need to scale up for a limited period of time and then actually scale down after that. Or Black Friday is also another very popular time of year where there's a massive amount of resources, high availability is required so that we can actually ensure that your systems are stable. So knowing those kinds of promotions or specific issues relating to your business helps us design a system that's actually scalable and cost effective for that. Other parts from a technical part that we like to know is what sort of databases are you using? Is it a single database? Does it operate in a cluster? Is this a new system? Is it an existing system? New systems, we have a little bit more flexibility to actually design that solution with you. An existing system may have technical constraints that we may need to take into account to actually inform that solution that we build with you. Migration deadlines. How long do we have to produce a solution that's going to work for you? Another key component is the regulations within an industry. Are there legal requirements, industry requirements, GDPR, all these kinds of things, how we handle the data? These all inform how the solution actually looks. We then get down to nuts and bolts. So your developers, we really want to understand from a technical point of view, the people developing your software, how are they developing the software? What are the languages they're using to develop the software? How do they deploy code? How do they manage the code? Those the aspects of how you operate internally, again, assist us in understanding and building the correct system that's going to work for you. And I think that the important thing is that as engineers, we try to moderate ourselves. We need to be careful and understand exactly what your business is, because there's no point us trying to design a solution that's this Rolls Royce when what you're looking for is actually a Toyota. Cool, thanks, Ron.
Great, thanks, Jonathan. So, I mean, that as you can hear, there is a significant amount of time that we invest in the engagement process with our customers. And so from a commercial perspective, and Jonathan and I work very closely together with our customers, and certainly in our minds, it's a good match because I have certainly a more commercial, practical day-to-day operations kind of approach to engaging our customers and understanding their businesses, and that dovetails very nicely with the engineering side of what needs to happen in order to provide solutions that actually work. And so once this engagement process has been thoroughly executed, if you like, and it's very important that we have the reciprocity from our customers during this process so that we really can collaborate on understanding and gaining the insights that we need, we then head into the engineering process. And our team, led by Jonathan, takes a very pragmatic approach to solution architecture and system performance optimization. So the key is for us to understand and identify the various pain points, the blockers, the challenges that the business is experiencing, so that we can propose, whether it be a migration plan to our virtual data center environment to resolve or remove these problems or constraints. And typically for those customers still running private clouds on-premise or physical infrastructure on-premise, these drivers would be mostly in respect of scale, stability, system performance, security, perhaps even compliance. And more often than not, it's a combination of all of these things. So similarly speaking, when we're engaging customers who are already utilizing a cloud computing solution, the drivers are often reflective in terms of support or optimization around cost. And so our primary objective really is to ensure that we firstly understand total cost of ownership holistically, and that both us and the customer understands that. And the importance of that is to be able to then leverage the business value out of whatever solution we're proposing. So Jonathan's going to take you through the steps that we would typically follow from an engineering perspective in this part of the process.
Thanks. So RSAWEB is not just a provider of cloud. We're actually we're our own clients as well. So we make extensive use of our cloud infrastructure to also provide services to our clients as well. So we're able to take those learnings that we've had internally and use that to inform the architectures that we can propose for clients. So we have a very good story in terms of we try to use proven technology in a very standard way, because we do believe, and we've learned over time, that the more complex the system is, the harder it is to manage, which can lead to a system becoming very fragile, which lands up being very expensive. So RSAWEB built a shared hosting environment using Docker and some custom code to manage the entire infrastructure. It was controlled by a set of Python scripts, Bash. It coordinated the deployment, so clients could order a website, it would deploy it out into this large cluster of hosts and bring it up. The client would have FTP access, and it was a technically beautiful solution, but it was very expensive. The problem was that the engineers had been working to solve the problems that they had, which was to build a shared hosting platform, but they weren't always following what the business required. So it cost us a lot of engineering time to manage the environment. We would add monitoring into it, which is great. We would be made more aware faster of the issues had, but over time, it became harder to actually understand what was going on and where things were breaking. It was a very complex system, and it became very fragile over time. So we made a difficult decision. We evaluated what was out there. We looked at what the possible solutions are. Do we build something else? Do we make it simpler? Or do we actually invest in something and pay for something that's more standard? And that's what we did. We decided to buy rather than build a replacement. So we spent the money on training our support staff in cPanel. We engaged with consultants to understand the best way to deploy cPanel on our infrastructure. And we started to migrate our clients onto cPanel. So it's very difficult to quantify exactly how much we saved in doing so, but we have a better, more stable standard system that our clients are familiar with. Our first line support staff spend less time actually supporting the product. The engineers spend less time supporting the infrastructure. And we were able to take something that was being deployed across 15 very large servers and consolidate it down to a handful. So we got a better product. We were using fewer resources. The soft costs came down as well because we're spending less time actually debugging something. And by spending money on the right tool, we actually save money in the long run. And we've done this for a number of clients as well. Clients have come to us and they've perhaps had another case where they've had physical servers and they needed to understand exactly what was going on. They inherited the infrastructure from another provider, and we needed to go in and actually understand what was going on. So they had 3 physical servers that were running many, many complex pieces of their system all in one environment. And you would have the website being served on the same place where the data was being processed. So when there was a large influx of data, the processing of that data would have a negative impact onto the client experience because they were no longer able to access the website. So we analyzed this architecture and we were actually able to help stabilize the system and get them better insights into what was going on that system. So again, we consolidated, we managed to design a system for them that was actually more stable and better value for money.
Great. Thanks, Jonathan. It's funny, we were so well prepared for this webinar, and then as we start, the cameras don't work and the slideshow misbehaves. It's Murphy's Law. There's a couple of things I wanted to just pick up on that Jonathan was talking about now before we move on to the next slide. And that is that, the investment into the technology stack is, in our minds, a strategic one. And the strategy has to be focused around business outcomes, partly, and secondly, around cost optimization. So depending on your specific scenario will depend on whether a migration to a virtual environment is a strategic move or not, and whether it's a cost optimization exercise or not. That, from what we've said this morning so far, it's clear that there is certainly not a one-size-fits-all scenario. And so in order for us to try and leverage the maximum value out of this, we follow an evaluation process. And that evaluation process requires continuous feedback loops between us and the customer. And typically not just from a technical perspective, but certainly from business stakeholders as well. So some of the questions that we would ask in general is relevant to the problems that we were trying to solve. Is the problem still persistent, or have we solved the problem? Is the system performance better, or are there still user experience complaints? Is the environment more stable than before? And have we met the security or business continuity requirements of that customer or that industry sector? Alternatively, the evaluation process can include a different kind of outcomes metric, such as, have we been able to enable the business to sell more products since making these changes? Is the end user engagement improving? Are site visits increasing? Are we operating with greater efficiency levels than we were before? And the more common unit of measure is, are we getting value for money service? So, often we've had conversations with customers where the unit of measure is based on a requirement to save cost. And the cost-saving drivers may come from external factors such as a constrained economy or industry sector, or more recently, a national lockdown. Possibly even a shift in the customer base, resulting in a lower product or lower service or sales levels. So the knee-jerk reaction, and seemingly the most logical one to have, is to look where costs can be reduced to a minimum. But this doesn't always solve the problem. So we're finding more and more that our customers are looking to technology products that we offer as a means to optimize spend, but also as a means to increase revenue and increase profitability. So spend optimization, in our view, means leveraging RSAWEB cloud services and additional technology to do more with less, to create agility, to find ways to enable sales and to improve turnover. And if cloud adoption and leveraging what the technology has to offer enables your business to better balance those critical key production metrics of quality versus time versus cost, then the take on of cloud services with a technology partner that emphasizes engagement, leverages engineering skills on your behalf, and is committed to evaluating the success criteria, then that's a strategic outcome and an investment into your business that we feel should seriously be considered. So I'm going to hand back to Jonathan now, who will take you through the evaluation process from an engineering perspective, and then I think we'll have some time for Q&A.
Thanks, Sean. So what we're trying to build here is a sort of a common thread from how we engage with our clients, how we design and engineer a solution for them, and how we evaluate. And we try to keep it as a constant cycle. Engage, engineer, evaluate. So it's important that we, within the engineering team, we like lots of data points. So we monitor systems, we look at the numbers, and those data points actually inform our decisions on, are we actually being effective, and we're actually making a difference to the system. So we continually analyze, again, our own resources and how we're using them within the organization to make sure that we're getting the most value for money. So what we'll frequently find is that when we look at resources that have been deployed, we'll go and actually literally audit the systems and look how those systems actually performed over the last 3 to 6 months, what resources were allocated to them in terms of the RAM, the CPU, the storage allocated, and are they actually making use of those resources? So what we do find very often is that developers, when they have access to a lot of resources, they may test something very quickly, spin up an actual server to try a particular proof of concept or development, and sometimes that developer forgets about that resources and they just leave it running. Something else quite frequently that will happen is that a developer or engineer may over-provision a server at the start because they're guessing that some sort of metric is required of it. So they may allocate far more RAM or storage than actually needed. So regardless of where your services are hosted, you will often find that evaluating exactly what you have and what you're paying for and how each service or server actually contributes to that spend, and are you getting the actual value out of that, will actually result in you finding resources that you can actually cut down or even reduce or cut. So another great example is looking for other savings is to actually evaluate the services that you are using, online services. So for example, what would happen quite often is that over time, billing systems or the billing model of online services may change. So something that you signed up for 3 or 4 years ago, they may have a different billing model now, but you've been grandfathered into the old costing model. So at RSAWEB, for example, we've made use of a platform for our source code, and we've been using it for many years. And when we looked at it again, we looked at the current business model and the pricing, we actually found that we were limited in terms of the number of repositories we could use, but we could have almost infinite number of users. And when we looked at, compared it to the current costing plans that the service offered, would it actually cost us 90% or more, or actually it was about 50% less if we actually just switched to a per user cost rather than a per repository cost. And we've also found this with other services as well. So we had a prospective client approach us, we evaluated their services that they were using. We like to get as much information. We like the Google Analytics. They gave us access to their Cloudflare account. And when we looked at it and we saw the billing, it didn't kind of match up the features that they actually required. and what they were paying didn't exactly match up. So we asked them about it, we interrogated a little bit more, and we found that the reason they needed to upgrade was because of a particular feature that they required. By restructuring how they were using that feature, they could actually cut the cost by 90% and just actually pay for a service that they actually required, and not such an expensive service. And we also do this with our clients as well, particularly our managed clients. So we will constantly evaluate and interrogate what's actually being used and how we can actually optimize the environment for our clients. So where possible, we will take servers that have been over-provisioned and we'll spread the load perhaps amongst them, take those resources that from one particular server and maybe add them to another server. So what we found is we have managed clients in the media industry, and over the last 4 or 5 months during this period, they've had a big increase in the number of users, and they needed to make sure that they can sustain those users as well within their current budget. So we're able to analyze the environment, see where we could find extra resources within their current budget. And for this particular client, we were actually able to give them more web servers and actually subscribe to a New Relic platform, APM management, which gave them bigger or better insight into their code and how it was being used, and also allowed us to see where the pain points were within that infrastructure as well and make adjustments accordingly. So yeah, over back to you, Sean.
Thanks, Jonathan. So I think we have a couple of questions in posted in the session. I'm just going to let Skoltz take back the management of this session and just MC, if you like, the questions.
Thank you, Sean. So we've got quite a few questions. And I'm just going to pick up on one at the moment. The question posted is, do you have any cost optimization challenges? And if so, what methodologies do you use to tackle?
So I'm guessing that question's in relation to our own experience, but I think it applies in the broader sense. Cost optimization is determined by feature and function, and depending on, as we discussed in the beginning of the session, depending on the business strategy, the day-to-day operations of that business, and the commercial or technical stresses which that business is suffering, if you like, will determine how much cost optimization can be created. And so I think one of the challenges that we face as a service provider engaging customers is there seems to be this pervasive idea that cloud services are always going to be cheaper. And it very much is infrastructure and solution dependent. So the view really should be, whether you're focusing on a strategic outcome, in which case you're required to invest in your business to achieve that, or whether we're looking at a pure optimization exercise. So, one of the things that Jonathan spoke about was in the context of us deciding to adopt WHM and cPanel for our shared hosting platform, as opposed to continuing to maintain and manage our own proprietary environment. The reason why it was a difficult decision is because technically we have the in-house skills and the ability to build and maintain and develop platforms, but commercially the time and the man hours that is required to make that viable doesn't necessarily justify the end. So, mostly all things are technically possible, but there is the balance between the commercial outcome and the time and technical investment. So I hope that answers the question. I don't know if maybe Jonathan wants to add something to that. Optimization costs.
Yeah, no, in terms of us optimizing your costs, I think it's very important that you get down to the root costs and try and compare apples with apples. So when we typically looking at the cost optimization and what we can do, we literally go down server by server at a project level, and here's a particular project. Here is the server. Here are the RAM, the CPU, the storage allocated to it, and we'll allocate a cost to it. So then we actually can see how is the server currently being used? What is its contribution to the overall expense of this particular project? So not just looking at the whole bill, we'll actually cost it according to the actual particular product line item and make sure that we're actually getting that value for money out of that particular item. So what we could find, for example, is a web server, for argument's sake, may land up, if it's misconfigured, it may land up more expensive than the database server. So it's important then that we look, why exactly is that web server contributing more to the cost than the database server? Have we created a tower, scaled it up vertically, instead of looking to maybe scale that out horizontally, where we can actually load balance the traffic amongst multiple web servers, reduce the cost overall, and add better stability to the system. And those are the kinds of things that we look for when we analyze our own internal usage. So how have things performed over time, and what are they actually contributing to the product?
Thank you, Jonathan. And we have another question here. Do you have a serverless cloud MS SQL service like what you get in Azure? And are you looking at implementing something like that in future?
Yes, this is something that we are actively in product development of. We have a system that we are currently beta testing. It'll actually support MS SQL, Postgres, and MySQL when it goes live later this year. I think we're looking within the last quarter of the year. And it's exactly because we've seen that the database as a service, we have the infrastructure, we have the capabilities to manage that, and we've been evaluating a number of platforms that actually will allow us to provide that as a service. So it would literally be a case of you tell us the resource requirements that you have for the particular server. We would expose the credentials to you. You would point your application at it. The particular service, it is obviously, I need to say, subject to change between now and the final delivery. But one of the nice features that, for example, we've been looking at is point-in-time recovery. So you would actually be able to have various backups. You could have a daily, a weekly, and you would actually be able to roll the database back and deploy the database as it looked at a particular point in time, at a particular marker within the transaction. So it actually provides a lot of flexibility. We're quite excited about being able to bring that product to market.
Thanks so much, Jonathan. Andrea, I hope that answers your question. Guys, we're over our time this morning for our Q&A, and I just want to give a special thank you to our awesome presenters this morning. it always is both informative to us, also to listen to such experts. And thank you again for attending. The full session will be available after this. We will send out a thank you mailer for all of you who have attended, and a link to this webinar so that you can rewatch it and go over any bits that you might have missed. Please do get in touch with us if you have any additional questions. And those of you who have requested some specific solutions in the questions tab, we'll be in touch with you immediately after the session. Thank you so much, everyone, and have an awesome day. Thanks.